You know those movies with artificial intelligence where AI always takes over the world and tries to destroy the human race? Well, the bad news is that artificial intelligence AI does exist. The good news is that it is not trying to take over the world, but to help us do our work better. At least for now. We'll see in the future. It's probably going to be some sort of doomsday scenario like Terminator, right? But that's not today. Today, we can use artificial intelligence to do our work more efficiently, to do it better. So, you write code, like everybody, every software engineer writes code. Now, whether that code is a front end or a back end, whether it's JavaScript or Java or Go, or maybe you're writing infrastructure as code, maybe you're a YAML developer, or maybe you're writing security policies or anything else, everybody writes code. And here's the question. Do you have to write all the code, or machines or some sort of services can do it for you? How about letting AI help us out with our code? And one potentially probably the most advanced or most commonly used, I mean, it's not most commonly used, it just appeared yesterday, a few days ago. Anyways, GitHub Copilot might be just the artificial intelligence we software engineers need to help us write code. It is not trying to replace humans, no doomsday scenario. It is just trying to help us out. At least for now. So let's see it in action. Let's see GitHub Copilot in action and see what it can do, how it does it, and so on and so forth. This is very new, so bear with me, right? Nobody has 5 years of experience with GitHub Copilot because it exists only for a few months, or a bit less or a bit more, depending on when you were accepted to the beta program. Let's go, let's check it out. So I already signed up and I already configured my Visual Studio Code to use GitHub Codespaces. You can use it with other editors like Visual Studio, you know, the one without code, and JetBrains and a few others. I'm using VS Code today, and I already registered Copilot, so no need to show you that part. You can follow the wizard, click, 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 click. Now I'm going to jump straight into starting a new project. Let's say that I want to start a new project and I want Copilot to help me with that project. I will use Go, but the same logic, the same experience should apply to 5 or 6 other languages. I'm going to comment later what those languages are, but for now what matters is that I'm starting a new project, a Go application, front-end application of sorts, or a backend, doesn't matter. I'm going to start a new application, so let's see how helpful Copilot is. So the first line, it's package main, not much help from Copilot over there. Let me continue. Let's see whether it will kick in and what it will do. So what should I do? Let's say that I want to calculate Fibonacci number, and I'm going to create a new function. I'm going to call it calculate Fibonacci. By the way, if you don't know what Fibonacci numbers are, well, check it out in Wikipedia. I'm not going to explain it now. What does matter is that the moment I wrote the name of the function calculate Fibonacci, GitHub Copilot kicked in and found a solution for me. You can see the dark gray lines are actually the solution, how to calculate Fibonacci, or at least one of the solutions. Now I could press the tab key and then it would apply that whole function, those 5-6 lines of code, or I can check for alternate solutions by pressing Control Enter key, and then poof, in the right side I have a new pane with a couple of 5, 6, I think up to 10 solutions that should provide a way for me to calculate the magic number, and all of them are more or less the same, so there is no real difference. And I can go with any of those, right? So I will accept one of those solutions and move on. Now, let's say that I would like that function to be exposed through a web server. I could write the main function in Go myself. I'm not going to do that because that's what Copilot does. I could start typing the code and then Copilot would finish or offer suggestions how to finish, but I'm not going to do that either. I mean, I already did that with the calculate Fibonacci function. Instead, what I'm going to do is to provide a bit of help to Copilot. I'm going to write a comment that defines what I want to accomplish. So I'm going to say, hey, how about I create an HTTP server and I would like to use Gin framework for that, right? I do not want you to give me a generic Go web server or HTTP server. I want Gin library for that. And there we go. It offers funcmain as a suggestion. I'm going to click tab and then it says, hey, how about you define R to be the Gin default request? Why not? Another tab, and then it offers a default handler to be /ping, and the response should be formatted in JSON, 200 response with a message saying Pong. And finally, to use the Gin framework, it is suggesting that I should run that. Of course I should. Now, this code by itself is not very usable, but it is a starting point. I definitely don't want to ping something, and my message is definitely not going to be Pong, but it is a very, very useful starting point. All I had to do is press tab every time it suggests a new line. Now, I do not like to have a handler inside of my main function, so I'm going to create a new function, and I'm going to do that by writing yet another comment that says, hey, I would like to handle the root path. And it's up to you to figure out that what I mean by this is HTTP server, because part of my code is already an HTTP server and that it should be root. So let's see what are the suggestions. And there we go. It immediately suggests that there should be a new function called root handle. Excellent. It should accept Gin context as the argument. Excellent as well. And it creates a JSON message still saying Pong, but I'm going to fix that soon. Now, I should accept a query parameter for my HTTP server with a number. So I'm going to write another comment saying, hey, how about I get a query parameter from an URL? And there we go. Yet another suggestion says, hey, n should be cQuery with a value. And that's not what I want, but that's good enough. Now I can change those values, I can change those n's into number, because I want somebody to give me a number and then I calculate Fibonacci for that number. Now, please note that so far all I'm doing is writing comments that describe what I want and accepting suggestions from Copilot. Eventually I might need to tweak something a bit, but what is really impressive is not only that it offers suggestions based on comments, but that also understands the context of the previous code. So when I say, how about you fail if the number is empty, it understands that there is a variable number. I hope it does understand. Anyway, it already suggested that, yeah, if number is equals nothing, empty string, then you should open an expression, and that expression should create another JSON message, this time with code response code 400, and the message should be number is required. Now, my calculate Fibonacci function expects integer, and the number I'm retrieving from a query is string, so I should convert that string into integer, right? And there is already a suggestion that gives me n as a variable that will be converted into int from the number as a string, and it will also throw an error if there is an error, or store an error, and I'm getting it all. I just need to say what I want. I want to convert string to integer, and I got everything I need for that. And if everything goes right, if everything works, the return JSON should not be a message, but maybe the number that I accepted through the query. So I'm going to modify that myself. No need for Copilot over there. And I'm going to retrieve the result of the calculate Fibonacci function, store it in result variable, and then go back to JSON and click the enter key, and look at that. It suggested, yeah, you probably want to put result over there as well. Of course I do, darling. So I'm going to just accept the suggestion. Now, it would be nice also to calculate the time required to calculate the number, the Fibonacci. So I'm going to say, hey, how about, in a comment, how about I start a timer, and yet another suggestion. And then below the calculate Fibonacci function, I'm going to say, and now, as a comment again, I want to end the timer, and I got yet another variable. And I would like to calculate the time that elapsed between those 2 points in time. So yet another comment, and there is a suggestion that says, yeah, that's what you want. So just click the tab key. Now, you would need to know Go to understand that the outcome is in nanoseconds, and that's not really useful to humans. So how about I write another comment that says convert nanoseconds to milliseconds, because I'm lazy to do that myself, right? And yet another suggestion, elapsed milliseconds. And if I go down to my JSON message and just click the enter key, it will suggest that I probably want to add the time, the elapsed time in milliseconds to the message as well. Now all that's left is to do a bit of refactoring of the main function, because Copilot suggested some ping pong message, something, doesn't matter. I don't want that. What I do want is to use the root handler as the input for the root address. So I'm just going to replace this with the invocation of the root function. No need for Copilot over there. I can do that myself. I mean, I could do everything myself. So it's not really that Copilot changed my life, but it simplified it, right? I can be dumb and not think about the things that do not matter, the things that are already solved by others, and focus my brain on the new stuff. And that's very helpful, right? While we're at it, I should probably start the server with the default port, but also that default port should be based on an environment variable and somebody wants to change it. So let's say that I'm going to write a new comment saying, hey, I want to get the port from an environment variable. And the suggestion is, oh, this is a failure, right? The suggestion is not really right. It suggests that the variable should be port equals 8080. That's the default port. That's not the port from an environment variable. And if I list all the available solutions, they're more or less doing the same thing. So this is the first time Copilot got a bit confused. But that's okay. I just need to help it a bit more. I'm just going to accept that solution and write a bit of code myself. I'm just going to change the port to be actually OS get environment port. And then, okay, so this is now cool. It already suggests comments, and if statement, if port is the equal nothing, then the port should be 8080. So it's doing the right thing after I redirected it a bit. So not perfect, right? It's not going to solve all your problems. You still need to think about and see what it's doing for you and correct the mistakes. But when you do correct the mistakes, then it's doing just the right thing. So let me open my terminal and try out my new fancy application with go run main.go. It's complaining. I need to import the module, so I'm going to do that by executing go mod init, and the application will be called hello. Yeah, that's okay. And I'm going to run go mod tidy, which will import the libraries that I need specifically for Gin and everything else that Gin needs. It would be nice if Copilot suggested what I should do there as well, but for now it is preoccupied with my code, not with my commands, which is a pity, but hey, it is what it is. And now I can run my code with go run. And in a new terminal, I'm going to open a new terminal. I'm going to send a request to my fancy application and see whether it works. Can you calculate Fibonacci for number 5? Yes, you can. How about number 10? Yes, you can do that as well. How about number 20? You can do that as well. And it's very fast. 1 millisecond, less than 1 millisecond, it says 0, but almost 1 millisecond. How about for 30? Oh, that already takes 4 milliseconds. Let's go to 40. That's almost half a second now. And how about 50? Well, my machine will struggle to calculate the number for 50. That will take some time, so I'm going to skip waiting for that and see what else Copilot can do for me. Can it do anything else beyond pure programming languages like Go or JavaScript or whatever else it supports? Let's try it with, what should I do? Oh, let's create a Kubernetes manifest. So I'm going to open a new file, kts.yaml, and write a comment. I like, the thing I like most about Copilot is writing comments telling what I want. So I want a Kubernetes deployment manifest, and doesn't work. Actually, it does work, but that's not Copilot. That's one of my other plugins in VS Code, and Copilot is disabled. You can see by that small icon at the bottom being yellowish or some ugly color, really. So let's enable Copilot for this file and try again. And it is not suggesting YAML, it is suggesting a shell command. That's not what I really want. So let me start typing kind deployment. API version is going to be upsv1. I'm not even sure whether Copilot is suggesting this or one of my plugins. If I go for metadata, anyways, it doesn't work with Kubernetes manifests. That's a pity. Let's see whether it works with shell, right? Bash is a programming language of sorts. I mean, scripting language. Let's see whether I can do something there. So what do I want? I want to apply Kubernetes manifests in the cluster, and it is suggesting yet another comment. It says this script is run by the... I don't care. Let's see what else it's suggesting. Yet another comment line. This script is idempotent. Okay, come on. And then yet another line, and this is getting boring. So it's not working with shell, it's not working with YAML, but it does work with Go. And actually that's what Copilot says. It works with almost anything, but it works really, really, really well with a couple of languages. I'm going to reveal what those languages are in a second. For now, let's go into GitHub Copilot pros and cons. Should you use it? Should you not use it? Let's check it out. To begin with, Copilot is not something that GitHub or Microsoft developed from scratch. It is based on OpenAI Codex. I will put the link into the description if you want to check it out. But what matters for now is that it is a project not necessarily meant to be used by end users, but meant to be used by other vendors who want to incorporate artificial intelligence into their tools or applications. And the first one that I know of is GitHub. So GitHub is an implementation of OpenAI Codex. Now, let's talk about the bad parts of it, right? To begin with, it is in very early stages. So do not expect earth-shattering, life-changing experience. It is a great experience, no, nevertheless, but it is still in early stages. OpenAI Codex is in early stages, and GitHub Copilot is just an implementation of that codex. What else? It works only with a handful of languages. Currently, it's supposed to support well Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, Ruby, Go. What else? C# and C++, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I haven't tested it in all those languages. I work mostly with Go, and with Go it works okay, not perfect. You saw a few glitches when I worked with it, and I didn't even do anything complicated, but nevertheless, the number of languages today is very limited to those 5 or 6 languages with varying degrees of support or success in those languages. Now, the reason why I'm putting this in a negative part is that I think that Copilot and Codex itself should go much further. It should go into other languages and also into scripting, into infrastructure as code, Kubernetes, etc. It should be able, I hope it will be able to help us write any type of code, not only those few languages. And by code, I mean something that is interpretable by machines and stored in Git. Nevertheless, those few languages are a good start. And the third potentially negative thing is that it is not free. It is priced at $10 per month, I think, per user, or $100 a year. Now, I don't think that it should be free, right? Because GitHub is giving us a service. Whenever we type something, the information goes back to the cloud and it comes back with suggestions, and that is extremely, extremely fast. So $10 sounds like a good deal. Nevertheless, if you expect something to be free, then it's a negative thing. But I think that $10 a month is a fair price. So scratch this. This is not a negative thing. Now, as for the positive things, there isn't much to say because it's potentially awesome for being this green, this early. It shows immediate benefits, right? You start benefiting from Copilot right away, and there is no learning curve, right? You do not need to learn anything special. You do not need to do anything in a special way except to learn a few shortcuts like tab key and control enter and a few others, and off you go. The only learning curve is potentially maybe to learn how to write comments, but comments are not a bad thing, right? You should be writing comments anyway. So if you assume that comments are a good thing, then there is nothing to learn but a few shortcuts. All in all, it's a no-brainer, right? For $10 a month, you're bound to save time, right? You're going to save more than those $5, or actually not $5, $10, by not having to go to Stack Overflow or wherever you're going to copy and paste code for your application, right? I mean, I know you write original code, you're a super developer, but let's face it, all of us are sometimes more often, sometimes less often, but we are all copying and pasting solutions from others because that allows us to focus on what really matters, what is special about our application. And this saves us from going to Stack Overflow. And that saving time is definitely worth $10. Try it out. You have 3 months, I think, trial period or something like that. So try it out for free and see whether it helps you as well.